Hello Leafs Nation, I'm Rick Scarborough and you're watching Blue and White Weekly, where we bring you weekly updates on the Leafs and the hockey world at large. That's not what's important. What's important is we have a brand new week of Maple Leafs hockey to talk about, so let's get into the news. Before we get into the games of the week, let's take a look at some news from around the hockey world. The PWHL Takeover Tour is underway as cities around North America get to experience the greatest that professional women's hockey has to offer. This week, the tour featured the Montreal Victoire taking on the Toronto Scepters in Vancouver. Marie-Philippe Poulin created a highlight reel moment, scoring from her knees as she fell to the ice, as she led her team to a 4-2 victory over Toronto. The Boston Bruins made waves yesterday after a Boston radio show host claimed that Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak had become a source of infighting for the team, refusing to play on a line with each other and blaming each other for the team's poor play. In media availability, Marchand slammed these rumors, calling them false and wanting the radio host fired from his job. Whether these claims are true or not, I'm stuck on the fact that the Leafs could finally win the Atlantic Division and still end up facing the Bruins. For more on the tight race in the Atlantic and the Eastern Conference as a whole, we go to our rinkside reporter, Riley Roberts. Thanks, Rick, and I am here outside Ford Performance Center on a beautiful day in Toronto, and the wild card battle is shaping up in an interesting fashion. While the race in the East is always a tight one, we usually see the same teams in the conversation year in and year out, but not this time. This year we've seen noticeable drop-off from the typical powerhouses like the Bruins and Rangers, for the last two President's Trophy winners if you'll remember, and they are both filtering in and out of wildcard spots, and we've seen rise from teams who have been in rebuilds for quite some time, such as the Red Wings, Blue Jackets, and Senators. But the most interesting turn has been from the Montreal Canadiens, bolstered by the re-addition of Patrick Laine to their lineup. After finishing last in the Atlantic in the past 3 seasons, the Habs have found themselves in and out of a wildcard spot several times just this week. Sorry about that. Now, Rick, if you're like me at all and you like to play the game of what if the playoffs finished today, and we could have seen a Leafs and Habs matchup. However, to give you a picture of just how close this Eastern wildcard race has been, the Leafs' potential playoff opponents just in the last week have included the Habs, Bruins, Blue Jackets, and Lightning. And before you ask, yes, those are the same 4 teams that the Leafs have played in the first round since 2017. 4 teams on repeat for 8 years. Our playoff format is a bit broken. Anyways, back to you in the studio, Rick. Not to call you a liar or anything, Riley, but the outside of the Leafs practice facility looks suspiciously like Google Maps being streamed onto your living room TV. And now for the games of the week. The Leafs and Flyers continued their home-and-home in Philadelphia on Tuesday, and plenty of tension carried over from Sunday's matchup, which saw Jake McCabe injured by Garnet the Pheasant Hathaway, and a few more spirited tussles. Head coach Craig Berube, who is no stranger to the history between these teams, said going into this game that he wanted to bring a, quote, tougher lineup into the game, and I half expected him to drag Ty Domi out of retirement, given his own track record in Philly. It took no less than 5 minutes of action for the bell to ring, but it might not be the combatants that you expected. While many thought Ryan Reeves would be dropping the gloves with Garnet Hathaway, it was actually Connor Dewar who threw down for the Leafs against Joel Farabee for the Flyers. The two got the crowd into the game early, and energy and tension stayed high from there, with there being 9 other penalties between these two teams after the fight. With the pace set from there, the teams traded goals, with Travis Konecny finding the back of the net twice for the Flyers, and Tavares and Matthews answering for the Leafs. But it was a Matthew Nyes tip-in halfway through the third that settled this one, and the Leafs leave town with a 3-2 win. The Leafs rolled forward into Carolina on Thursday for a matchup with the Hurricanes. The Leafs came into this game on a 5-game win streak, whereas the Canes had lost 5 of their last 8. In true Leaf fashion, any guesses as to how this game went? Nick Robertson opened up the scoring for the Leafs with his 7th of the season, continuing his trend of scoring in his first game back from a healthy scratch. If you want to make some free money, take a Robertson anytime goal bet in a game after he has been healthy scratched. Nylander and Matthews also got on the board for the Leafs, but the Canes would rally behind a hat trick from their captain, Jordan Staal, to stomp out Toronto. Staal had 5 goals this season coming into this game and finished the game with 8. He nearly doubled his goal total for the season in this one. The Leafs just could not keep up with Carolina in this one, and they lose 6-3. The Leafs hope to move on from that loss in Carolina on a rare weekend without a back-to-back, as the Vancouver Canucks came to town on Saturday. The Canucks had lost 8 of their last 10 coming into Saturday, and are on the second half of the back-to-back, having lost to Carolina on Friday. You would think with all those things in their favor, plus the Canucks having travel troubles getting into Toronto, that the Leafs would be the better team both in terms of rest and mentality. If you think that, you clearly don't know the Leafs well enough. Leafs lose 4-0. I'd provide further analysis on this game, but why should I have to try when the Leafs clearly didn't? The Leafs lose 4-0. If you want to know why they lost, it's because they didn't care. If you want to know how they lost, there's plenty of highlight packs on YouTube. Go ahead and watch. I'm not going to break it down. Can I go home yet? Looking ahead in the week, the Leafs host the Dallas Stars on Tuesday and the New Jersey Devils on Thursday, before taking a trip to Montreal to face the Habs for the annual Hockey Day in Canada. We'll have all those games for you next week, plus so much more, but for now, thank you very much for watching, Leafs Nation. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember, go Leafs, go. We'll see you next week.